Consider the feeling of standing in a room full of people. Everyone is talking, laughing, and sharing stories. You have a great idea in your head. You want to join the conversation and show them who you really are. But when you open your mouth, nothing comes out. The thoughts are there, bright and clear, but the words to describe them are missing from your reach. This experience is more than just a simple silence. It is a deep frustration that many adults feel when they try to step into a new world. You are a person with a complex life, a job, and many opinions. Yet, without the right tools to speak, you feel like a shadow of yourself. It is as if your true personality is locked inside a box. There is a physical sensation to this struggle. You can almost feel the air in your throat, ready to become sound. You know exactly what you want to say in your own mind. However, a wall stands between your thoughts and the person listening to you. This wall is not made of stone or wood, but it feels just as real and just as heavy. It feels like being a traveler in a land where you have no map. You see the mountains and the rivers, but you do not know their names. You want to ask for directions or tell someone about the beauty you see, but you are stuck using simple gestures. This gap between what we feel and what we can say is a painful distance to travel. Often, we experience the phenomenon where a word is right on the tip of the tongue. You can feel the shape of it. You might even know the first letter, but it refuses to come forward. It stays hidden in the dark corners of your mind, teasing you. This small failure can make even the most confident person feel suddenly shy and small. As we explore these quiet moments, it is important to remember that you are not alone in this journey. People from every corner of the globe, from every culture and background, are listening to these same words right now. We are a community of minds all trying to build the same bridge. Together, we are searching for the key to unlock our voices. The struggle for expression is a universal human story. It is the story of wanting to connect, to share, and to belong. When we lack the right sounds to describe our reality, we feel a loss of power. Our identity depends on our ability to tell our story. Without that ability, we are like actors on a stage who have forgotten their most important lines. This silence can be exhausting. It takes a lot of energy to constantly look for words that are not there. By the end of a long day, your mind feels tired from the effort of trying to be understood. You might wonder if you will ever feel comfortable and free when you speak. You might worry that the wall will always be there. But there is a reason for hope. Science tells us that the human brain is built for communication. We are hardwired to share information and build bonds through sound. The door is not locked forever. We simply need to understand the mechanics of the lock. There is a biological secret to how we hold on to information and how we let it go. Deep within your mind, there are systems waiting to be used. These systems don't care about rules or tests. They care about survival and connection. If we can learn how the brain decides what is important, we can change the way we approach new sounds. We can move from the silence of the mind into a world of clear and confident expression. To find this key, we must first understand why we forget. We often think of our memory as a library where everything is saved on a shelf. However, the brain does not work that way. In reality, your brain is more like a protective librarian. Its main job is not to remember every single detail, but to throw away information that it thinks you do not need. Every day, your senses are hit by a massive flood of data. You see thousands of colors, hear hundreds of noises, and smell many different things. If your brain kept every single piece of information, you would lose your mind. You would be overwhelmed by the noise. To keep you safe and focused, your brain acts as a filter, constantly cleaning out the unnecessary. Think about the thousands of words you hear in a single afternoon. Most of them are like raindrops hitting a window. They slide off and disappear. Your brain watches this flood and asks one simple question: is this information vital for survival? If the answer is no, the brain opens a metaphorical trash can and clears the space for something more important. This is why looking at a list of 50 new words in the morning usually ends in failure by the evening. To your brain, those words are just random noises. They have no weight or value. Because the librarian doesn't see a reason to keep them, they are deleted while you sleep. This is not a sign of a bad memory. It is a sign of a healthy brain. The trash can of the mind is very efficient. It prefers to keep the path clear for things that keep you alive or make you happy. A list of symbols on a page doesn't feel like a matter of life or death. So, the brain treats them like junk mail. It throws them away before you even have a chance to use them in a real conversation. There is also a huge difference between seeing a word and owning it. You might recognize a word when you read it in a book. You feel like you know it. But when you try to use it in a conversation, it is gone. This is because the word is only in your short-term storage. It hasn't been moved into the deep vault of your permanent memory yet. The brain only moves information into the deep vault when it feels that the information is vital. It looks for clues to determine what matters. One of the strongest clues is emotion. If a piece of information is connected to a strong feeling, like fear, joy, or deep interest, the brain pays attention. It marks that information as importance and keeps it safe for the future. Imagine you are walking in a forest and you see a strange blue berry. If you eat it and feel sick, you will never forget what that berry looks like. Your brain saves that image forever because it is tied to survival. But if you just look at a picture of a blue berry in a book, you will likely forget it within an hour. This leads us to our first secret: importance. If you want to keep new sounds in your head, you must convince your brain that they are necessary for your life. You cannot trick the librarian with boring lists. You must show the librarian that these sounds are part of your world, your feelings, and your daily needs. Only then will the gates open. When we approach communication through the lens of survival and emotion, everything changes. We stop trying to force information into our heads and start inviting it in. We look for ways to make the sounds matter to us personally. We look for the human connection behind the symbols. This is the first step toward moving past the invisible wall that keeps us silent. The brain is naturally attracted to stories and experiences, not isolated facts. It wants to know how a piece of information fits into the bigger picture. When a sound is connected to a person you care about or a goal you want to achieve, it gains weight. It becomes a tool you can use rather than a burden you have to carry in your mind. By understanding the librarian's rules, we can work with our biology instead of against it. We can stop fighting our own forgetfulness and start using it to our advantage. The goal is not to remember everything, but to remember the right things. This brings us to the next part of our journey, finding the thread that connects everything together. A single word standing alone is like a ghost. It has no body, no weight, and no history. It floats in your mind for a second and then vanishes. This is why learning from a dictionary is so difficult for the adult mind. The words have no home. To stay in your memory, a word needs a neighborhood. It needs a context to live in. Think of this context as a golden thread. This thread ties new sounds to the things you already know and feel. It connects a word to a specific place, a specific smell, or a specific person. When you pull on the thread, the word comes with it. Without the thread, you are just reaching into the dark, hoping to catch something by chance. The golden thread is created when we see how words work together in a real scene. Instead of looking at the word for water, imagine the feeling of a cold glass in your hand on a hot day. Imagine the sound of a river rushing over rocks. When you connect the sound to the physical experience, the brain recognizes it as something real and useful. Let us take a specific example. Consider the word storm. You could read the definition, a disturbance of the atmosphere. But that is just a cold fact. Your brain will likely forget it. Instead, imagine a story. Imagine the sky turning a dark, heavy gray. You smell the sharp scent of rain on the dusty pavement. You hear the low rumble of thunder. In this story, the word storm is no longer an island. It is connected to the smell of rain, the color of the clouds, and the feeling of running for cover. Now, when you see a dark sky, your brain will naturally reach for that word. The golden thread has been tied. the word has a place to live in your memory. Our minds are built to crave meaningful maps. We don't want a pile of individual bricks, we want to see the whole house. When we learn through stories and real-life scenes, we're building a map of the world. Each new sound we master becomes a landmark on that map. This makes it much easier to navigate our thoughts when we speak. When you focus on context, you are not just learning symbols, you are learning the world through a different lens. You are discovering how other people describe their feelings and their surroundings. This creates a deep emotional takeaway. You realize that communication is not about perfect accuracy, but about sharing a slice of human experience with another person. This approach removes the pressure of being correct. If you focus on the story and the meaning, your brain stays relaxed and open. When the brain is relaxed, it is much better at absorbing new information. You stop worrying about the individual bricks and start enjoying the view from the window of the house you are building. Many people fail because they try to collect words like they are collecting stamps. They put them in a book and never look at them again. But words are not decorations, they are tools. A tool is only useful if you know when and how to use it. The golden thread gives you that knowledge by showing you the word in action. As you move through your day, try to find these threads. When you see something in your own life, think about the sound that describes it. Don't look for a translation, look for the feeling. If you are drinking coffee, don't just think of the word. Feel the warmth of the mug and the bitterness of the taste. Tie the sound to that moment. This simple shift in perspective makes the process of discovery much more natural. It turns a difficult task into a curious exploration. You are no longer a student trying to memorize a book. You are an explorer looking for the connections between things. You are building a rich, colorful world inside your mind, one thread at a time. The more threads you create, the stronger your network of memory becomes. Soon, you won't have to search for the words. They will be pulled forward by the context of your life. When you feel a certain way or see a certain thing, the right sounds will follow naturally. This is how we move toward the freedom of expression we desire. However, even with the strongest threads, we must face another biological reality. The brain is designed to let things fade if they are not used. Even the best stories can be forgotten if we only hear them once. This brings us to the importance of timing and the rhythm of how we return to what we have learned. Think of your memory like a path through a thick forest. The first time you walk through the woods, you have to push through the tall grass and the bushes. It is hard work. When you reach the other side and look back, you can see where you walked. But if you do not walk that way again, the grass will grow back quickly. Within a few days, the path you made will be gone. The forest will look exactly as it did before. To make a real path that stays visible, you must walk it again and again. But there is a secret to how you do this. You don't need to walk the path 50 times in one day. That would just make you tired. The biology of the path requires a specific rhythm. You need to walk it again just as the grass is starting to grow back, but before the path has completely disappeared. This is the sweet spots of memory. By returning to the information at the right moment, you tell your brain, this path is important. Keep it open. This concept is based on the famous forgetting curve. Imagine a graph where your memory of something drops very fast at first and then slows down over time. If you look at something once, you might forget 80% of it by tomorrow. But if you look at it again the next day, you will remember it for much longer. There was a man named Hermann Ebbinghaus who became obsessed with time and memory. He spent years testing his own brain to see how fast he forgot things. He discovered that the most efficient way to remember something forever is to review it at increasing intervals. This is not about hard work, it is about smart timing. Consider two different people. The first person tries to learn 50 words in 1 hour on a Monday. By Friday, they have forgotten almost all of them. The second person looks at 5 words for just a few minutes, but they do it on Monday, Wednesday, and then the following Sunday. The second person will remember much more with less total effort. Patience is a biological requirement for building these paths. You cannot force a forest to grow, and you cannot force a path to stay open overnight. You must respect the rhythm of return. When you see a word for the third or fourth time over several weeks, something magical happens. The brain finally moves it into permanent storage. This rhythmic return creates a feeling of calm authority. You are no longer rushing to finish a task. You are tending to a garden. You know that if you come back at the right time, the plants will grow. This takes the stress out of the process. You don't have to worry about forgetting, because you know the return is part of the plan. Many people get discouraged because they forget things they saw just a few days ago. They think they have a bad memory, but they are just experiencing the natural forgetting curve. Instead of being upset, see it as a signal. It is simply time to walk the path again. Each time you do, the grass grows back more slowly. Eventually, the path becomes a road. It becomes so clear and well-traveled that you don't even have to think about where to step. The words come to you without any effort. But to reach this stage, you must be willing to play the long game. You must trust that small, repeated actions are more powerful than one giant effort. This rhythm of return is the heartbeat of effective communication. It ensures that the tools you are building are always sharp and ready. By spreading your exposure over time, you are teaching your brain that these sounds are a permanent part of your life. You are building a bridge that will not wash away in the next storm. Now, we must look at the next stage of the journey. Building a path is important, but a path is only useful if you actually walk on it to go somewhere. Knowing the words is one thing, but using them to speak is another. This requires us to move from the quiet safety of listening into the active world of action. Our journey so far has been about how we take information in. We have looked at filtering, context, and timing. But communication is a two-way street. It is not just about what stays in our heads, but what comes out of our mouths. This shift from passive to active is where the real transformation happens. There is a safe harbor in listening and reading. You can sit quietly, understand what is happening, and feel comfortable. However, speaking is like leaving the harbor and entering the open sea. Out there, the waves are moving, and you have to steer the boat yourself. It is more difficult, and it can be scary, but it is the only way to travel. The reason speaking feels so different is that it is a physical act. Your brain has to coordinate dozens of tiny muscles in your mouth, tongue, and throat to create specific sounds. It is like learning to play an instrument or a sport. You can watch someone play the piano for hours, but your fingers won't know what to do until you touch the keys. Your mouth must learn the shape of a new sound. This takes practice and repetition of a different kind. You have to physically move your jaw and position your tongue in ways that might feel strange at first. This is why you can understand a word perfectly, but still struggle to say it clearly. The muscle memory hasn't been built yet. One of the biggest obstacles at this stage is adult pride. As adults, we are used to being capable and intelligent. We don't like making mistakes or sounding broken. This fear of looking foolish often stops us from even trying. We stay in the safe harbor because we are afraid that if we go out to sea, we might sink. However, the secret of growth is something called retrieval. Your brain gets much stronger when it has to struggle to find a word. If someone gives you the answer immediately, your brain stays lazy. But if you stop, think, and finally pull the word out of your own memory, the connection to that word becomes 10 times stronger. Every time you struggle to find a sound, you are actually doing a push-up for your brain. The effort itself is what builds the muscle. This means that making mistakes and pausing to think are not signs of failure. They are the exact moments when your brain is doing its most important work. The struggle is the path to strength. Imagine a person who reads 1,000 words in silence every day, and another person who speaks only 10 words out loud, but does it with effort and focus. The person who speaks those 10 words will often make more progress in their ability to communicate. Active use is much more powerful than passive observation. You must be willing to speak poorly to eventually speak well. To overcome the fear of mistakes, we must change our perspective. A mistake is just a piece of data. It tells you where the path is still a bit rough. It is not a judgment on your intelligence. In fact, the most successful communicators are often those who are willing to make the most mistakes early on. They test the boundaries and learn quickly. When you speak, don't aim for perfection. Aim for connection. If the other person understands your meaning, you have succeeded. Even if the grammar isn't perfect or the sound is a bit off, the bridge has been built. Each successful connection gives you more confidence to go a little further into the open sea next time. Try to find low-pressure ways to use your voice. Speak to yourself while you are making dinner. Describe what you are doing. Talk to your pets or even to the walls. The goal is to get your mouth used to making the sounds without the stress of a real conversation. This builds the physical habit in a safe environment. As you get more comfortable, start looking for small interactions, a greeting, a simple question, or a short comment. These small wins add up. Each time you successfully retrieve a word from your mind and turn it into a sound, you are taking ownership of that word. It is no longer something you know, it is something you do. This move toward action marks a major turning point. You are no longer just a listener. You are a participant. You are starting to exert your influence on the world around you through your voice. The invisible wall is beginning to crack. But there is one final shift we must make to truly find our freedom. As you move through this process, you will notice something interesting. You are not just learning a way to speak, you are shifting your identity. You are moving past the learning phase and into a new way of living. This is the moment when the new sounds stop being a subject. You study and start being a part of who you are. This identity shift is powerful. It happens when you stop thinking of yourself as a student and start thinking of yourself as a speaker or an explorer. A student is always waiting for a grade or a correction. An explorer is just living their life and discovering new things. This change in mindset removes the heavy burden of expectation. In this new phase, you will discover the cultural soul of language. You will find words that carry feelings that don't even exist in your first language. These words offer you new ways to see the world. You might find a sound that perfectly describes a specific kind of light or a specific type of friendship. This is a beautiful expansion of your inner life. To support this shift, it helps to create small daily rituals. A common one is the 15-minute rule. Instead of trying to find hours of time, just commit to 15 minutes of living in the new world of sound every single day. This could be listening to a story, speaking to yourself, or writing down a few thoughts. Consistency is the secret of the masters. These small rituals keep the fire burning. They ensure that the paths in your brain stay clear and that your identity as a speaker stays strong. It is not about how much you do, but how often you do it. A short daily connection is much better for your sense of self than a long, exhausting session once a week. As you embrace this new identity, you will find that the invisible wall finally starts to come down. You no longer feel like a shadow of yourself. You start to find ways to express your humor, your kindness, and your expertise. Your personality begins to shine through the new sounds. You are becoming a more complete version of yourself. The mindset of an explorer is one of curiosity and wonder. When you encounter something you don't know, you don't feel frustrated. You feel excited to add a new landmark to your map. You realize that there is no end to this journey. There is always more to discover, and that is what makes it so rewarding. You are constantly growing. This is also when you start to connect with the culture behind the communication. You understand the rhythm of how people interact, their values, and their stories. You are not just exchanging information. You are participating in a different way of being human. This deepens your empathy and your understanding of the world at large. The moment you realize you can be yourself in another language is a moment of pure freedom. It is the result of all the small steps you have taken. The focus on emotion, the creation of context, the respect for timing, and the courage to act have all led to this. You are no longer trapped inside your own mind. This shift is not just about communication. It is about personal growth. It challenges you to be brave, to be patient, and to be humble. It forces you to look at the world in new ways and to connect with people you might never have met otherwise. It is a journey that changes you from the inside out. By living the language instead of just studying it, you make it permanent. It becomes a tool that is always in your pocket, ready to be used whenever you need it. You have built a bridge between your inner world and the outer world, and that bridge is now strong enough to carry your heaviest thoughts and your brightest ideas. Now, as we reach the end of our exploration, let us look back at the journey we have taken. We started in the silence of the mind, feeling the frustration of the invisible wall. We discovered the secrets of the brain's filter and the importance of emotion. We learned how to tie the golden thread of context and walk the forest path of return. We also learned the importance of action. We moved from the safe harbor of listening to the open sea of speaking. We accepted the struggle of retrieval and the necessity of mistakes. Finally, we embraced a new identity as explorers, allowing our true personalities to shine through in a new and beautiful way. Communication is not a subject to be mastered, it is a life to be lived. It is not about a perfect score on a test, but about the quality of the connections you make with others. When you focus on the human side of the experience, the technical side often takes care of itself. The goal is simply to be understood and to understand. The final result of this journey is freedom. The freedom to share your thoughts, the freedom to ask questions, and the freedom to build relationships across cultures. This is one of the greatest gifts we can give ourselves. It opens doors that we didn't even know existed and allows us to participate fully in the global conversation. Remember that the words you are looking for are already inside you. You have the ideas, the feelings, and the stories. All you have been doing is building the bridge to reach them. Every time you practice these principles, you are making that bridge a little bit wider and a little bit stronger. You are getting closer to the other side. Do not be discouraged by the distance you still have to travel. Instead, look back and see how far you have already come. Think of the silence you have already broken and the connections you have already made. Each small step is a victory. Each new word is a light in the darkness. You are doing the work of building a new world. The science of memory and the art of communication are yours to use. Use them with patience, use them with curiosity, and most importantly, use them with heart. The world is waiting to hear what you have to say. The wall is coming down, the path is clear, and the door is finally opening for you to step through. As you move forward, keep these secrets in your mind. Remember that importance, context, timing, and action are the pillars of your success. Trust in your brain's ability to grow and change. Trust in your own resilience. The journey may be long, but the destination, a life of clear and confident expression, is worth every single step you take. In the end, it is not just about the sounds we make. It is about the lives we touch and the bridges we build. You have the power to connect, to inspire, and to be heard. The silence is over. Your voice is ready. Now, go out and share your story with the world, because your perspective is a gift that only you can give.